Cecilia and Francis seemed like the perfect couple. She was ambitious and loving, he was charming and successful. Together, they built a life, a flourishing startup, a beautiful apartment, and dreams for the future. But cracks were starting to show. One evening, Cecilia noticed Francis's phone kept buzzing late at night. When she glanced over, a message popped up, "Can't wait to see you again." But before she could ask, Francis swiftly locked the screen. Days later, Francis left early for a business trip, but Cecilia's friends saw him at a downtown cafe, with another woman. Cecilia brushed it off, maybe a client. Despite the unease, Cecilia told herself repeatedly, "He loves me. I'm being paranoid." At work, Francis became distant. He stopped attending her product launch meetings, instead focusing on his own projects, barely replying to texts. Cecilia overheard a whispered conversation on a call, a female voice laughing and calling Francis by a pet name she didn't recognize. She found herself questioning but suppressed the doubts. The second month brought more tension. Francis started leaving his laptop open accidentally. One day, Cecilia glanced at his screen, an email thread between Francis and a woman named Isabel, filled with flirtatious exchanges and plans to meet after work. At a friend's party, Cecilia caught Francis smiling at Isabel across the room. Isabel's eyes held something more than friendship. Cecilia said nothing, pretending it didn't hurt. At work, Francis openly ignored Cecilia's ideas and even took credit for a project she had spearheaded. Her boss suggested she tone down her emotional involvement and focus on the bigger picture. One afternoon, Francis forgot his phone at home. Cecilia couldn't resist opening it. She found photos of Francis and Isabel together, in intimate poses, at a restaurant. But instead of confronting him, Cecilia convinced herself, maybe it's just a fling. Maybe I'm overreacting. Her friends warned her to pay attention. Her sister told her, "Cecilia, you deserve better." Yet, she clung to hope. Cecilia's world began to unravel. Francis's coldness grew. He came home late, distant. Once, he forgot their anniversary entirely. One night, Cecilia found a receipt for a ring, not for her but for Isabel. Cecilia sipped her morning coffee, watching Francis across the kitchen island. His phone buzzed. She saw the name, Isabel. She brushed it off with a smile. Maybe it's just work. Maybe I'm imagining things. But the late nights kept stacking up. The unexplained business trips. The way Francis's gaze sometimes slipped away from her, like he was somewhere else. At dinner one night, she found lipstick on his collar. Her heart stuttered, but she shoved the fear deep down. It's probably from a client. I'm being paranoid. The weekend came and she called Francis to plan a getaway. He didn't answer. Hours later, she saw him laughing in a photo posted online, with Isabel. A cold knot tightened in Cecilia's chest. Maybe it's nothing, she whispered to herself, swallowing the doubt. Her inner monologue, how could I trust him so blindly? Was I just too desperate to believe in us? Maybe I'm overthinking. But why does it hurt so much? Days later, she confronted him gently. "Francis, who is Isabel?" He smiled, evading her eyes. "A colleague. That's all." But Cecilia heard the hesitation. The lie was thin. Her stomach twisted. Still, she told herself, I have to believe in him. I love him. But the next day, she found Francis and Isabel leaving a hotel together. This was the betrayal she could no longer ignore, but it was too late. The door slammed shut behind Cecilia as she walked out of the corporate office for the last time. Her heels clicked mechanically on the marble floor, echoing in the silence of her downfall. The termination letter trembled in her hand, not from the cold but from the raw humiliation. Francis's signature stared back at her. Sharp. Detached. Final. He hadn't even faced her. Just sent HR to do his dirty work. He ended my career like I was an inconvenience. Just a mistake to erase. That evening, her phone buzzed, a final insult. Isabel's face on the screen. Laughing. Wrapped around Frances's arm. No caption. Just a picture and the timestamp, 2 hours after her termination. Her friends? Gone. Some ghosted her. Others sent pitying texts, half-hearted words soaked in betrayal. They believed him. God, they actually believed I was crazy. Her apartment lease was mysteriously cancelled within a week. She was told the landlord reconsidered. The condo? Gone. The joint account? Emptied overnight. She knew why. Behind the scenes, Frances had already prepared her erasure, even before she caught him. Then came the final blow. A courier envelope arrived at her friend's sofa, where she'd been crashing. Inside? Divorce papers. Filed unilaterally. Reason cited? Mental instability, volatile behavior, and emotional abuse. He called her unstable. He dared. He rewrote history while I was still bleeding from it. She read the documents in silence. Then reread them. And again. He didn't just leave her. He was erasing her. Replacing her. Blaming her. The divorce proceedings were ruthless. His lawyers painted her as unfit, unstable, even manipulative. They referenced doctored messages. Fabricated breakdowns. One even cited her crying in a meeting after finding Isabel's lipstick in Frances's coat pocket, presented as unprofessional emotional outburst. So, I was the one falling apart while they were plotting together? The court awarded everything to Frances. The company shares. The apartment. Even the furniture. They claimed she had no contribution to the household wealth. All her sacrifices, the late nights, the strategy plans, the constant emotional labor, wiped from record. She stood there, outside the courthouse, holding her last name now severed by law. Cecilia Ainsworth was now just Cecilia. No job. No home. No husband. No reputation. I gave that man my soul. And he filed it under miscellaneous loss. And yet, in the deepest corners of her grief, in between the sleepless nights and the dry heaving sobs, a spark ignited. Rage. Not reckless. Not loud. Cold. Sharp. Purposeful. He took everything. So now, I'll take everything back. Piece by piece. And when I rise, he'll know exactly what he threw away. And this time, she wouldn't cry. This time, she'd build something that no man could touch. The fall was complete. Now came the silence before the storm. 6 months passed. Cecilia didn't disappear, she transformed. She didn't move back to her parents' house or hide in some small town. She stayed in the city, in the same streets where whispers followed her and old friends crossed the road to avoid eye contact. But now, she moved differently. Silently. Purposefully. Like a storm gathering strength behind calm clouds. Her morning started before sunrise. Jogging in silence, the city still asleep. Her mind replayed every courtroom insult, every fake pity-laced message, every time Frances whispered sweet nothings while lying beside her and texting Isabel under the sheets. You broke me. I won't return the same. She got a job. A small position. Nothing close to her former title, just an entry-level branding consultant for a startup no one cared about. She didn't mind. Because in the quiet, she learned everything. She kept her head down, but her mind absorbed it all: digital strategy, boardroom power games, investor psychology, legal contracts, tech infrastructure. Every night, she took online courses. Her notebooks were filled with future plans, not regrets. The startup noticed. In 2 months, she was promoted. In 4, she rewrote their entire pitch deck and helped land their first big investor. By month 6, Cecilia was co-founder of a new firm, lean, modern, and everything Frances's dinosaur empire wasn't. And still, she kept quiet. Meanwhile, Francis's empire wasn't thriving like he expected. Isabel, now the official Mrs. Ainsworth to society, quickly proved more socialite than strategist. Her charm ran out the moment she opened her mouth in board meetings. The investors? They weren't impressed. Without Cecilia's sharp touch behind the scenes, deals began to stall. The board started whispering. But Francis dismissed it. Cecilia was just the background noise. I'm the brand. He hadn't seen her face in half a year. He thought she was gone. Maybe remarried. Maybe broke and hiding. He didn't care. Until one invitation arrived at his desk. A new firm was launching an AI-driven branding engine, sleek, adaptive, revolutionary. The PR buzz was loud. The invite? Gold embossed. Elegant. Founder, C. Rowan, a nod to her mother's maiden name, her real legacy. He nearly choked. The night of the launch, Cecilia stepped out of the black car in a midnight silk gown, her hair slicked into a crown of quiet vengeance. Flashes lit up the carpet. Her old colleagues gasped. Some barely recognized her. She passed by Isabel, standing beside Francis, her dress too tight, her smile strained. Cecilia didn't look twice. Inside the venue, her speech silenced the room. I built something without compromise. Without shadows. This company doesn't just sell stories, it rewrites them. Just like I did. Her voice didn't tremble once. The media went wild. Cecilia Ainsworth returned stronger. New powerhouse shakes the industry. Phoenix in heels. Francis sat in the crowd, jaw clenched. He realized, far too late, that the woman he discarded wasn't just a partner. She was the foundation. That night, Cecilia stood on the rooftop alone, staring over the city skyline. You left me to break. But I didn't just heal. I evolved. You can't even touch the woman I've become. The wind whispered through her hair. And for the first time in forever. She smiled. Not because she'd won. But because now, the real game could begin. 3 months after Cecilia's return. Francis's name still carried weight, but his voice? No one was listening anymore. The boardroom he once ruled now echoed with doubt. Shareholders frowned at charts Cecilia's company had skewed, her tech outpaced them, her branding made them look archaic. Francis watched the numbers slide. Then the whispers started. Wasn't Cecilia the real brain? Maybe we backed the wrong horse. What does Isabel even do here? Every question clawed at his pride. He ignored it at first, narcissists often do. He blamed the market, the interns, even the economy. But deep down, a rot had started to fester. Home wasn't any better. Isabel was beautiful. Still charming in public. But behind closed doors? You didn't tell me Cecilia owned half the old patents. Why didn't we get that investor she's working with now? Do you even know what you're doing, Francis? Her voice cut sharper than truth ever could. Gone was the sweet mistress who once giggled in his arms. Now, she stood as a mirror, reflecting all his insecurities. You left your wife for this? He thought it once and hated himself for it. The mansion echoed emptier than ever. Then came the moment. A critical investor pulled out of a deal. The reason? Cecilia's firm already offered us a better proposal. Francis stared at the email like it was written in fire. That night, he downed 2 glasses of whiskey, staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows of his once imposing office. He remembered the way Cecilia used to walk in, heels tapping, voice calm but commanding. She'd stand beside him, not behind him. Back then, he felt invincible. God. What have I done? Then it got worse. A video went viral, an old company interview clip. Cecilia beside him, smiling modestly, brushing off credit. And him. Smug, arrogant, claiming her success as his own. She supports me. That's her role. I make the big moves. Comments flooded in. You lost a queen, idiot. She's 10 times smarter than him. Imagine cheating on that and thinking you upgraded. Francis fumbled the whole galaxy. The humiliation was public. Brutal. Inescapable. One night, he showed up drunk outside her new office. Security stopped him at the door. But Cecilia saw him through the glass wall. Same expensive suit. Same cold blue eyes. But this time, she looked right through him. She stepped out, cool and poised. Francis. He stumbled forward. I made a mistake. She didn't flinch. That's not new. He reached for her wrist. She stepped back. Please. I thought you were trying to sabotage me back then. Isabel said. Her voice cut in, low and lethal. You believed her over me without a second thought. You let your ego write our story, Francis. But I rewrote mine. He stood frozen. She leaned in, whispering. You didn't lose a wife. You lost the best part of yourself. And then she turned. Walked away. He never saw her again. That night, he went home. He sat in silence. The silence he chose. The silence he deserved. Cecilia. She was never the background. She was the whole damn picture. 6 months later. Francis stood at the edge of the charity gala, champagne untouched in his hand, eyes locked on the woman commanding the room. Cecilia. She wore power like a second skin now, not loud, not forced. Just calm, effortless dominance. Her company had just announced a global expansion. Her face graced magazine covers with headlines like, The Rise After Ruin. She was the scandal. Now she's the standard. Cecilia Sterling, the queen who forged her own crown. And somehow, it made him ache in places he didn't know existed. He didn't hate her. He hated himself. He waited till the crowd thinned. She stepped outside, heels crunching softly against gravel as she approached her car. He called out. Cecilia. She didn't turn immediately. When she did, it was with a slow, deliberate breath. Francis. You look tired. Not a trace of sympathy. Just truth. He swallowed the sting. I came to say sorry. Really sorry. For everything. The company. The lies. Isabel. You. And what exactly are you sorry for? Her eyes didn't blink. For not believing in you. For not seeing you. His voice cracked. I let my ego talk. I thought you were holding me back when you were the one keeping me grounded. A long silence. I was jealous of your shine, he whispered. She looked at him for the first time. Really looked. That's the thing about broken mirrors, Francis. They reflect only fragments. You saw what you feared, not what was real. He took a step closer. Is it too late? He asked, voice trembling. Even just for closure. For peace between us. Her smile was not cruel. Just tired. You think this is about peace? You didn't just cheat on me with a woman. You betrayed us. You humiliated me. Took my work. Poisoned my name. Then when you realized you were wrong, you came back expecting what? Forgiveness? He opened his mouth, then closed it. She stepped closer now. Not tender. Steel and flame. Forgiveness isn't owed. It's earned. And you haven't even begun to bleed for what you did. She turned and slid into the black car. The door shut like the period at the end of a war. Francis stood under the streetlights, shattered. Again. But this time, there was no one to blame. Not Isabel. Not jealousy. Not ambition. Just himself. Meanwhile. Inside the car, Cecilia let the silence wrap around her. Her assistant asked gently. You, okay? She smiled. Softly. Not for him, for herself. I'm more than okay. I finally know my worth. She looked out the window as the city lights blurred. He lost me the moment he thought I was beneath him. Her fingers rested on the ring she now wore, not the old wedding band. A new one. A commitment to herself. The long-awaited twist of karma catching up, not in screams or scandal, but in poetic justice. 2 months after the gala. The cracks began to show. Isabel's name had been dragged into court for financial manipulation. The media flipped on her with surgical precision. Socialite or snake? From mistress to mess, Isabel's corporate catastrophe. And the final blow? The anonymous whistleblower who provided insider emails proving Isabel doctored documents under Cecilia's name. That whistleblower? Cecilia's new assistant, planted months ago when Cecilia made her comeback. She played us, Isabel whispered in shock. From the beginning. No, Francis murmured. She outgrew us. We were too small to see it. Isabel fled to her old friends. They ghosted her. The ones who once sipped cocktails at her side now spoke in whispers and turned away in elevators. The reputation she'd built off lies, off Cecilia's ruins, began to collapse under its own weight. She got desperate. Sent emails. Voicemails. Even tried to book an interview to share her truth. But the world had already chosen its heroine. And it wasn't her. Meanwhile, Cecilia stood in the boardroom of her company's new headquarters in Paris. Her vision was now global, her staff fiercely loyal, her name untouchable. As she reviewed quarterly profits, her phone buzzed. A message from a friend in New York. Isabel cited alone. Paparazzi called her the woman who ruined herself. Thought you'd want to know. She smiled, only faintly. Not with malice. With closure. Later that night. Alone in her hotel suite, Cecilia stared out over the Eiffel skyline. A gentle knock at the door. It was the same man from the gala, Daniel, a tech mogul she'd collaborated with recently. Honest eyes. Steady voice. Respect in his every word. Dinner? He asked, holding 2 cups of warm coffee instead of wine. She took one. Dinner, she said, her heart quiet but open. Isabel had her fall. Francis had his regret. Cecilia? She had her freedom. Her peace. And the final